So if you were to bring the black share of wealth at least to the black share of the population, it would require an additional at least $10 trillion.
The Arabs used Islam to rationalize their slavery and their imperialism. The Europeans used Christianity to rationalize their slavery and imperialism. Who are you kidding about friends in the world? Damn it, if you want a friend, look in the mirror. There's 1 billion African people on the face of this earth. Why are you buying third-rate junk from third-rate people thinking you can't make it? Why don't you at least make a safety pin to hold your child's diaper together? Teach. Who has programmed your mind at thinking you can't make a car? The first man that made a car that had never seen one previously. The Japanese bought cars, bought locomotives, broke them down and studied them, and had a Japanese technician produce each piece, put it together, and had a much better train than the one they copied from. All knowledge in the world belongs to everybody in the world. Yes. Who has programmed our mind in assuming that we cannot run a nation and run it well? Main thing imperialism did, slavery and imperialism, they removed African people from the respectful commentary of history. And they tell them something they are still telling them, and all of the organized religions are guilty of this. I favor none of it because Africa didn't need any of it. I'm saying that African belief systems, properly understood, is 10 times better than Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And better for the African. So you might have some romance with one of these religions. I have no romance with any of them. I have a romance with reality and truth. And the chips can fall where they may after I tell it. As for friends, you have had no friends. When they discovered you, they began to prey on you. Now let's look at our relationship with Western Asia, mistakenly called the Middle East.
What's up?
Morning, fam. So no new friends and old ones either, huh?
How y'all doing today?
Oh, no, it's Dr. John Henrik Clark suggested for people that don't know Dr. Clark, go ahead, check him out, do your research on that. All right, family. So the phone lines are going to be up. I think they are up. So if you do want to call in throughout the program, use that number. Maybe we'll throw it up in the banner. And actually, let's put it in the chat too. Y'all want to call in? Let's see. Let's put it in the chat. Do that shortly. Let's see here. What's going on, Kim? What's going on? What's going on?
We here. We here.
All right. So today we're going to do something a little different. And family, thanks for everybody for joining. And if you want to put some information in the chat as well. Go ahead and do that instead of calling in. It's all good. So today we're going to do a think tank session, or attempt to do a think tank session. And basically today is going to be about the subpoena power and what we feel as the community, the task force and the DOJ should go after, who to go after and what to go after. So we're going to just, try it, see how it works. Now I think there's 2 sections, and CO and Kim, please, come in and help me out to understand as well if you need to. We're not experts at this, family, but we're gonna.
No, this is a community effort. That's why we need you to call in and drop your suggestions in the chat on the subpoena power. I know what I would like to see, the agencies and corporations. I would like to see subpoena by the task force. But again, this is a community collaborative effort. I'm just basically like Sway. I ain't got all the answers. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, for it.
So I don't know, CO, if we're gonna try to see if you don't mind taking notes here. I guess we're gonna. I don't know. Can you share your screen? If that's possible.
Yeah, let me hit the share button.
And then we're gonna go ahead and start with the session here. Now I'm thinking that maybe, family, if we have, and I don't know in the chat if you think this is correct too. Yes, good morning. What's up, Raps? What's up, Darlene? How y'all doing? I don't know if this is the route that we should go, but maybe we should start off with the private sector first, and then go into the government sector next. Does that sound like a plan? Or
that works for me. Let's do it.
I mean, I don't know. Are there any other sectors out there besides private and government?
Not that I'm necessarily aware of. It usually is one or the other, right? Where we're not for profits falling.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, is nonprofit? Should they be subpoenaed as well?
Yep, I could think of one. I think they're a nonprofit, SHRA, out here in Sacramento, the Sacramento Housing Authority. They've got all these plans to help new home buyers, which that's great. But there needs to be something done about the homeowners that were displaced or in the past, especially dealing with the 08 housing crisis. So it just I find it a conflict that they're willing to help all these new people, but they're not doing anything to help the people that they have harmed in the past. Kind of like our reparations claim here. They're saying, oh, we want to do all this new stuff for the new Black people, but what about the Black people who have not been redressed from your previous harms?
Agreed.
Good point. All right, so I guess let's start off with. I mean, we were going to start with the private, but since Kim already mentioned not-for-profits, so what was that group? I mean, I don't know if we want to get like specific, but we can. So
I mean, nonprofits. You could say nonprofits dealing with housing. These nonprofits that are given lots of money to help with the situation, with the housing situation, but we still see homelessness running rampant throughout our cities. So yeah, let's start with all the nonprofits that are dealing with housing, supposed to be helping people, and we're really not seeing any change.
And just for clarification, Kim, and as an example, who was the organization that you
SHRA, and I believe that stands for Sacramento, probably, I don't know, Sacramento Housing residential agency or something, maybe something like that, SHRA. And they're also the one that was distributing the rental assistance out here in Sacramento during the pandemic. And that was a whole cluster in itself. So yeah, I think they need to open up their books. We need to see who's getting this assistance. We need to see where it's going. It's one of those agencies that kind of lumps everything under POC and BIPOC, and we want to know how much of these resources are going to, Black American descendants as well. So they may need to open up their books on that.
While we're on the housing, if I can jump in, I would love to throw in HUD. They're a government agency though,
Okay.
but let's see HUD stands for the Department of Housing and Urban
Development.
Thank you. Thank you. I literally yesterday just played this game called That's House, and it's a story-driven game that talks about the effects of housing on 3 generations of Black individuals here in America, from these grandparents who were sharecroppers in the South, moved to Detroit, and like a lot of the housing issues that got them, including like the projects that were created and essentially abandoned, and then the government coming in and say, okay, we're going to get rid of these houses and create condominiums, but now folks can no longer afford to live there and are being pushed out, and we're given vouchers to essentially leave their community. So I definitely think we should be taking a look at HUD, not only because of the things that popped up in that game, and that game was called Dots Home, and it's free on Steam if anybody wants to take a look at it. But also just hearing and just remembering the stories like from my mom, and the stories like her friends and family, my family as well, were talking about, of like trying to get a proper home in a district that made sense for the kids that they had, that was affordable, that was accessible, and to Kim's point, like there's supposed to be programs to help folks who are in need, but quite often a lot of those programs are, you just kind of get ran around in a circle. People get denied for reasons that quite don't make sense, and it really ends up not helping as many as the people that is designed to help. So I really do think that we should take a look at HUD and how uh, racist practices and racist mentalities were weaved into the housing programs themselves.
That's a good one. Now, what is the objective of this game, and what was it called that you were playing?
Dots Home, DOT''S.
And what's the ultimate outcome? What do you win?
So it's a story driven game. So to call it a game is, I would say, is loose. It's more like walking through a moving comic book, and you do have some choices. Because the character goes back in time, and she's speaking with her grandparents, and she's speaking with her parents, and as the player, you have to choose whether you want to buy or rent. You have to choose whether you want to stay in this community or leave this community. And then I think the 3rd generation owned a house and was deciding to sell, essentially to a big corporate white owned backed corporation, or to another family who I believe were immigrants who were having trouble getting work and getting a place or such like that. So you do have some choices in there, but ultimately I think the point of the game was to bring these issues to life, and for folks to understand and recognize that uh, it's not all as simple as it looks. They did talk about like environmental justice a little bit about in there, when they were saying in Detroit, they were saying that everyone in their family has asthma, because of their proximity to a lot of the companies that were there, and that's also somebody who I would love to throw on the list. Probably that would go into private. But a lot of the companies who are doing the dumping, a lot of the companies who are putting out products, knowing that it is causing issues in our neighborhoods.
Okay. Do you have the link to that game for anybody who might be interested in playing? Could you drop that in the chat, CO, when you get a minute?
Sure can.
Yeah, and HUD, is that also the department that's responsible for the Section 8 vouchers? I could see where, that might be information that we'd be interested in looking at too, who, is being granted those Section 8 benefits, how long, what's the typical wait on the list. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I believe they are that department.
All right, sounds good. So we've got one under government, we've got one under nonprofit, and also we might as well go with private and the banking institute. I think we all agree needs to be at the top of that list.
Thinking.
Do we have any examples of who maybe some of those banks are?
Well, a personal example, and I'm willing to martyr my mortgage situation for further examination on this, would be Chase Bank. Chase Bank, going through the modification process, the subprime loan process back in 2008 when we had the big housing crisis. I had a trial modification going on with them. The price was $14.88, which I was able to meet that criteria, which was one of the metrics that needed to be reached for having that modification approved. So, never missed a payment. Going along, I thought I would be approved since they were bailed out by the federal government, billions and billions of dollars to help distressed homeowners. But at the end of the day, even though I didn't miss any of those payments on my trial modification, they still bundled and sold my loan to a third-party predatory lender. And, the pricing has been volatile since then. So I was paying $14.88 under that contract with Chase. Now it's like almost $2,500 a month with this predatory lender. And also, when you don't have the federal protections and backing with housing, you don't really get to take advantage of a lot of the programs that come out, like, for instance, the COVID forbearance that just happened. If your mortgage was held by a federally backed bank like these Chase, and you can just go ahead and say Wells Fargo, Bank of America, those are the top three that come to mind. You're automatically covered under these federal programs. But when you're dealing with a third party predatory lender, you're just really at their mercy. So what I would like to see with Chase, and like I said, I'm just looking at it through a personal lens. So if anybody else has any ideas, I would like to see how many of these trial modification contracts that they breached during the housing crisis period. And I've been talking to Chase executives over the last 6 months, trying to, get them to voluntarily provide that information. And they said that they will not do it, basically. So they're not going to do it unless they're forced to do it.
So let's force them.
Well, there goes the subpoena.
That's what I'd say.
I also want like Wells Fargo specifically on this list, because we know their predecessors, meaning like the previous versions of themselves, because we know banks like rebrand themselves, they buy up another bank, change their name, change their branding, and so on and so forth. But the history part, some of the history from Wells Fargo, like old school Wachovia, and there was another bank, I can't remember the name off the top of my head right now, but they specifically like owned enslaved Africans. They owned our forefathers, and they also accepted slaves as payment for debts owed to them. So they had a direct and intentional connection to slavery, to keeping it alive, to keeping it moving, of buying into it and such like that. So I definitely want their record. I definitely want them to be held accountable.
Definitely Wells Fargo. And not even, history with Wells Fargo. There's a recent article that just came out last week about Wells Fargo and how they denied over 50% of refinance loans during the pandemic to Black and brown borrowers. But with that, also, that's really just being left out of another government type of program that would help people, because during the pandemic, mortgage rate loans were down. I mean, I think at some point they were even like 0%, but they're like 0, 1, and 2%. So the people who were able to refinance under that low interest rate, they got a pretty big benefit there, and everybody wasn't able to qualify for it. Or the people that were denied by, like I said, Wells Fargo and these types of banks, they were, excluded from another program meant to help homeowners.
Mm-hmm.
And now rates are going back up. So if you miss that boat, yeah.
Down.
All right. Darlene in the chat mentioned charter schools. So I think where were
They
charters not for
they
profit,
not for
right?
profit or are they private?
I think they're both actually, because you can be a private school and you could be any teachers out there. I think you can be as far as charter schools. I think I think you can be a private and a public. So, but I don't know if that would fall under. Uh, yeah, maybe CL. First of all, CL, thanks for taking notes, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate you.
So maybe if Darlene is still there, she could drop a sentence or two about why charter schools are on her hit list.
Yeah, I do think this. I guess this will be government, but simply the way that we fund our schools remains quite racist, to be completely honest. And I believe most folks know that the money that goes to school is highly tied to the property value of the area. And so with the redlining that has occurred, with like pushing or keep pushing black folks out of areas and then starting to invest in them, or keeping black folks out of high yielding areas, keeps our schools underfunded. And so knowing and understanding that and keeping those policies on the books just continues to perpetuate the same results over and over and over. So what is that, a government agency? I don't even know how to write that.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? The funding, where the funds come from?
Yeah, the funding of public schools.
Well,
So it sounds like what you just described, with it being attached to the property taxes and the housing in the neighborhood. So is it determined at the municipal level? Or is it some kind of federal mandate that trickles down to each of the municipalities?
That, to be honest, I'm not that sure of.
Yeah, I
I'm
guess
not
that's
sure
why
where
we need
that.
them to open the book so they can see. But yeah,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. I mean, funding for schools, it should be more equitable, not based on the neighborhood, or attached to the property taxes. Maybe they should just have some kind of general fund that gets split evenly among all the schools in the district.
Hmm.
Shout out to reps. Mention hospitals.
Those are private and not for profit.
Yeah, so
So
I don't know.
tell us more, reps.
Yeah, maybe we could put it in both. I mean,
Is there a government agency that largely oversees the medical industry? Because I know one of the things that the task force is concerned with, the California Reparations Task Force is concerned with, as far as these subpoenas are concerned, they're thinking that it might be a little more difficult or time consuming to get private entities to adhere to subpoena requests, as opposed to government agencies, which are already part of the government. They're thinking it might be easier to obtain that information from government entities that are kind of bound by some sort of rules and regulations. So, is there a federal or a governmental body that largely looks at the medical industry or oversees the medical industry?
I'm unaware.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I know at one point as they were going through the pandemic, they had the health agency. I can't
Oh,
remember.
the CDC. How could we forget the CDC? Is that what we're talking about?
Well, there's
Center
a
for Disease and
CDC and
Control.
there's also the state. I know the state has a here. Let me see. Is it called the state health department? I'm typing.
Google.
Let me see. Public health departments. California Department. That's what it's called. California Department of Public Health.
Okay. Well, let's put them on the list.
So I'm assuming other states have departments of public health as well, but in particular for California, definitely Department of Public Health. Excuse me, just real quick. All right, I want to take a quick break here because we're about half an hour into, and I just want to mention family. Let's see here. I'm gonna pop something up real quick. That if y'all haven't had a chance, check out on our platform the hearing we had. Yes, Kim showing up in the building, and Darlene, who I believe is in the chat as well, show up and they gave their testimony along with Chris Lodgson. Thank you all for who also called in as well to the hearing. I know I heard a lot of CJEC folks call in and other people, so appreciate y'all calling in. And also, we did have an interview with Chris before the hearing starts, so that's on our channel. Check those two out if you haven't checked it out. Like, share, subscribe, please as well. We're almost to 1,000 subscribers, family. We're almost there. So we're trying to get to that level of 1,000. So please like, share, and subscribe. Tell everybody. If you're enjoying the content, you can participate in the chat or give us a call at where's that? Here we go. Yeah, call in 720-740-9699. Hit that access code 657-2569. All right, so let's get back into it. So let's go into the comments again here. All right, so somebody mentioned, okay, they deal with Medicaid. Okay. Let's see. Darlene said private public health department. Marines. Okay. All right. So we got the hospitals. We got the banks. We got HUD, real estate. Well, that's
We definitely need real estate on here.
yeah.
Where's that? Private?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely real estate. The private folks. I don't know if they're a public, but they're willing and direct efforts to create and maintain redlining. I think is a no brainer. I would also love to throw Monsanto on here. Monsanto is the company that makes like Roundup. They historically have had it out for Black farmers. A lot of their products cause that they knew caused cancer, cause a whole bunch of issues, and between that as well as like their seeds, they have a an aggressive approach to suing suing farmers to get them out of the way. Essentially, like they'll set up a farm. Let's say you're on block A, they'll set up a farm on block B, and then have their seeds basically like trickle, carry with the wind into yours, or just naturally because you know how birds eat stuff and then poop wherever they want. Find their seeds or their strain on your farm and then sue you and then keep suing you and keep it in court, knowing that they don't really need to get you out of the way, but knowing that you don't have the money to keep fighting them.
Mhm.
So they have like really aggressive, really horrible tactics that go after black farmers, and not only like health wise, but also in terms of their livelihood.
So,
Monsantoism.
so I don't know if this is going to be like a sub item or a separate item, but is that the agricultural industry?
Yes, that would go
Yeah,
under agriculture. And while we're talking agriculture, you might as well put the uh, California Department of Food and Agriculture. I think that's what they're called, CDFA. And see what their culpability in all of this is. See how many black farmers there are indeed even in California. Not a lot to my knowledge, so definitely think looking into the agricultural industry is worth a further look. Uh,
Now, are
but
they? I don't know if you know this, Kim, or not, but are they private or are they
that
government?
would be a state agency.
Okay.
I believe that's California Department of Food and Agriculture. Right, and they provide a lot of grants and subsidies to ag workers. So we'd like to see how much of that is going to black farmers. How many black farmers there even are? I think California is like a $64 billion agricultural industry. So we want to know how much of that is going to black farmers.
All
while
right.
we're on, well, we're not on not for profits, but I would love to add police unions on here. Most of them are run. I know LA's police union that covers LAPD and LASD. They're a not for profit organization, uh, but their willingness and continuing the vestiges of slavery and continuing to prey on our people and to murder our people and to just make it okay uh, is like definitely needs to be handled.
All right. What about the institution of incarceration, the prison systems?
Yeah.
So that isn't that both private and government? Because I know they have private. Um, I was going to call it enslavement
It
system.
is.
The industrial complex. So I think prisons we do have private and public
Yeah.
or government funded, like state and federal. Now I don't know about I don't know what maybe this would fall under food and agriculture, but I know like street vending. Um, I don't know if that should be something that, and I don't know where that would fall under in terms of like subpoena, because I know black people we have a lot of small businesses like mom and pop that want to do like street vending. So I don't know what kind of data or information that we can get out of that, because it's not as easy as people think it is to kind of start, a food truck business. Um, so I kind of would like to know like what the data and the statistics are on, how many, black people actually own, food trucks and street vending and so forth like that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an agency that covers that. Or is it based on by municipality by municipality? I know that here in Sacramento, They eased up on some of the rules for street vending. So I don't know if that's a city by city basis, but since we're speaking of cities, and I know they wouldn't be able to, subpoena every city, but maybe they should subpoena the city of Sacramento, being that the city of Sacramento is the capital here, and they could kind of look at the city of Sacramento as a barometer of what might be lacking in other municipalities throughout the state. What the city of Sacramento really needs to open up their books on is, for one, their hiring practices and their workforce. We want to see, what percentage of Black people are holding these positions at the city, and more importantly, positions of leadership or leading the industries. I know that I have looked at a graph of the number of people, Black people employed in the city of Sacramento. The number was pretty dismal. But that information is not disaggregated. So for one, we don't know how many Black Americans hold those positions versus other Blacks. And yeah, so they should open up their books. And also, what I would like to see uh, at the municipality level is Sacramento could open up their books on how many homeowners, Black homeowners, are in Sacramento, and that kind of ties back into the banks here and what they were doing during the modification process. I think that's when a lot of people lost their homes to foreclosures. So, the city of Sacramento, they could come in and we could just use their information as a barometer to what might be going on in the rest of the state.
I would love to throw on here environmental injustices, presuming that's going to be government. But I know it's tied to the redlining, but the areas where our people were regulated to has what is it? USC did a study about like for instance the air quality. And the areas in which we live are the areas that have the worst air quality, and thus we have higher rates of stress, we have higher rates of asthma, we have higher rates of all types of physical items just simply attached to where we live, because we're right around the freeways, right? They built the freeways down through our neighborhoods because of the what do you call it? We live by the airports and such like that, or the companies that are spouting out um, items into the air that we should not be inhaling on the basis that we're inhaling. But I'll leave it at that.
All right, somebody in the chat mentioned parole contracts.
Ooh, ooh, that's a good one. Not to mention the whole bail shenanigans, the bail bond shenanigans, or the companies where if you want to call somebody who's in prison, it'll cost you like $2 a minute or something crazy. Like, no, it's way more than $2 a minute. But like all of the agencies that are capitalizing off of our friends and family being in prison.
All right, so
Right.
the
Parole contracts.
yeah, that's private, right? The parole contract.
That I don't know.
All right, well, we'll just put it in private, and if it needs to eventually be moved to.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I heard that there were like contracts given, like proprietary contracts given for what you were saying, CO, the telephone calls, and like these companies that get these contracts, they're also heavy into lobbying and providing funding for different political interests. So that seems like it could need to be looked into a little bit more too, and see. Seems like there's some conflicts of interest there,
Mhm.
and then they hold the whole contract worth millions or billions of dollars.
And even that like the folks who, I know this is already over here, but the private prisons, but and them having contracts with the city that they essentially have beds that have to be filled, right? They have the private prisons have quotas, so if they aren't filled, if there aren't people in jail, then the state itself or the city itself has to pay these private prisons for their lack of income. Which obviously only encourages the police to make sure that there are people in prison, and then we know who they're putting in prison.
All right, so CO under I don't know if this goes under housing and urban development, but the eminent domain that the government holds, I think they definitely need to subpoena whoever that is. I don't know, but I know eminent domain has disenfranchised a lot of Black people.
Yeah, they actually keep trying to take some of my family's land in Texas.
For what purpose, do you know, or can you say?
They're saying, and they have been saying, like, oh, they need to expand a road, because there's it's basically, they're saying it's a high traffic area. They need folks to get in and to get out. So they need to cut through our land to allow for it. Um, this is a, like, middle of nowhere. There ain't nothing but trees, and there is a paved road that does already cut through our land, but it doesn't need to be widened. More than two cars can be on it at the same time. Um, and it's like, so, I hate to say backwoods, but it's just backwoods. It literally, that's all it is. It's just like nature, just living, doing its
It
nature
sounds
self.
like they're planning for major development. This is just the first step.
But they're not, because it's all private land, right? And so
It's
there's
all
this.
private. It's all private land now, but
Yeah, exactly.
when the plan goes through, and these plans, these urban development plans, they're years in the making, decades in the making. They know what they're trying to do.
Hmm. But I've had, like, cousins, second, third, whatever, removed. They've had their what do you call it, land taken from them, essentially. What I was taught was that, um it's like, to be in government, or most jobs are, like, become a family business down in the South. So yeah, like, pa works there, cousin works there, uncle works there, or whatever. So in the city government itself, they'll start taking people's land, and folks don't know, because they're not showing up to court, they're not getting their proper paperwork, or when you do file it, they'll take it and, like, do some stuff with it. So I do completely and utterly agree. We do need to take a look at not only those cities who enacted eminent domain, but also those companies, such as, like, the gas companies, the water companies, and such like that, who are literally going in and taking advantage of folks, when they need not.
All right, so I don't know how relevant because you mentioned, I think that fall under utility, right?
Yeah, is that private or is that
Yeah,
government?
because I think the government contracts out to utility companies, so I think it's private. I mean, they might have different states might have their own utility companies, but I'm pretty sure it's private.
Yeah, SMUD out here is private.
So another one we could also look at is EDD, the Employment Development Department.
Okay, what kind of information we looking at from them?
Just if they have any disaggregated data on Blacks being hired. I think they also have information on unemployment as well, if I'm correct.
Okay, and then to the city of Sac, you didn't put home ownership rates, Black home ownership rates. Can put that on there. We need like to see that information.
All right, so let's see what we got so far, family. CL, do you mind scrolling up, please? All right, so far in the private section, we have banks, we have hospitals, real estate, agriculture, private prisons, utility companies. Let's go down to the next. Government agencies, HUD, Department of Public and Health, agriculture, prisons, city municipalities, environmental justices, EDD, not-for-profits, housing orgs, eminent domain, hospitals, police unions, and miscellaneous charter schools. Who funds public schools and like food trucks? In the miscellaneous CO, can you put food truck / vendors? All right, cool. Thank you. Let's see. All right.
While you're there, might as well put cannabis dispensaries.
Oh, you hit on a gold mine there. That one should be
Right at the top of the list.
Yeah.
And everybody who is, in jail or has a record due to some cannabis offense, I believe they should be expunged. Because now cannabis is legal.
Yep.
Very, very true.
I think.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna tag on to that. I know in LA it was a huge deal and still is. The amount of not leases, permits that were given out or that were available, because there was a cap on them. That were available, and essentially all the big businesses coming in and snatching them up. And so at one point they released them and were like, okay, hey, if you were affected essentially by the war on drugs, meaning what it should have meant. Well, if you were affected by it, meaning you lived in an area, black areas, or you went to prison, or you had a record, or you got caught up, or something like that, you were supposed to have like sort of first dibs. You were supposed to be able to be first in line in order to snatch them up. But what ended up happening, specifically here in LA, I can't speak to anywhere else, were people who owned property in the black areas were like claiming that, oh yeah, that's my address, so I was affected, so I get to be first in line. And a lot of the setup for what you needed to have, like your paperwork, your monies, like your business plans, like all of the boxes that you needed checked, essentially meant you had to have stacks, like you had to have hundreds of thousands of dollars ready at your disposal, and we know that's not us. So even the design of the program, which was supposed to be for those who were affected, ultimately didn't turn out to be for us, and really ended up keeping a lot of us out. So there's a lot of that needs to be done, concerning cannabis, including, as Kim mentioned, everybody who's in prison right now, 3 strikes off of a dime bag or a dub or whatever, they need to be out and have their records expunged.
Right. Same thing here in the city of Sacramento. So if we could go back to what the city of Sacramento needs to reveal to the task force when they get subpoenaed is their cannabis, the way they're handling their cannabis, which they call out here a core program. I think they were only releasing 30 permits for dispensaries, and none of them went to Black people. And everything was supposed to be built around equity, like you said, and people who were harmed by the cannabis industry. But for some reason, it didn't work out like that. Like you said, just the barriers to entry were still so great.
Yeah, I got to look at the article, but I was sent an article about how people in the Bay Area are really struggling, trying to break in, specifically Black, cannabis dispensaries. Same thing in Sacramento and Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, because the buy-in is so great, and you need to have you need to have a space already to work out. I would
Mm.
think you have to have a property space for at least a year before you're even considered. So even before they'll consider you, you have to like have a property that you're paying rent on or a mortgage on in this area before they'll even consider you for it. So a lot of people just don't have that. And like you said, the startup fees, which are in the thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and just even just having that space was so huge down here because your landlord has the ability to charge you rent based on the type of shop you are. It's not this shop on this corner is gonna cost this much regardless. Um, right? It's like in a way, it's not the same as like housing. Like the same apartment is gonna cost the same amount no matter who's living there, essentially. So if you came in and were like, I want to have a weed business, they were charging you 30 and $40,000 a month, versus I have a pet shop and it's 2 grand, 4 grand, or whatever it would be. So having like what Kim just said of having that your location for a year meant you had to pay 30 grand, 40 grand in rent every month without ever even before you ever even got your permit. So you didn't even have the ability to sell weed at that point legally. So you just have to have the funds or the funders backing you in order to pay that. And that's astronomical. It doesn't make sense for us.
Yeah. Somebody mentioned in the chat disabilities assessment centers.
Yes, that's a good one. So if we're talking about government agencies, we might as well go ahead and put the Department of Health and Human Services on there. That's the agency that determines um, disability benefits. So yeah, they can come in and talk about, who's getting these benefits, how it's determined, who gets these benefits, and we want to see where, Black people who apply for these benefits where they fall on the list.
Mhm.
All right, so another huge industry in California is the media industry.
So who would we subpoena? Is there a government agency that would deal with that? Or what about the California Film
Commission?
Commission?
Yeah, they could
I
be.
know that their board, their directors, and their uh, executive director is appointed by the governor. So I'm assuming that there's governmental ties there, but I don't know if it would be considered a governmental agency. Maybe though. Maybe though.
I think we should also go after the private companies themselves.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe if you put and put media, um, and then underneath that we'll do some sub headers like what's in media. You said film. Can we
Yeah.
tap out film, music? They got print media, right? Print and digital, so that's news. What else? Film, music, print, digital.
Should we just put tech under here or a separate category for
It's
tech
the same
industry?
thing.
Yeah, it's kind of almost in the same thing, but
Well, now that they use a lot of digital, assets in their reporting, so
yeah.
it is all tied in. What just happened? Twitter suspended the account of the New York Times for reporting on the Hunter Biden laptop fiasco. Their account was suspended, but it turns out now that the story was true. So these tech companies, they're censoring people. Um, so definitely should be on the list.
Yeah, and even like it's a well-known fact that their algorithms work against the black community. And like there are a bunch of creators that talk about it on TikTok. There's a bunch of creators who will show and prove that when they do something, when they create something, it gets this much exposure. But when someone else literally lifts their sound, and someone else, meaning a white individual, lifts their sound and can do the exact same thing, they would get further reach. One, and then, oh wait, I just forgot the other point. Oh, about like black pain and commodifying black pain, and even down to the same issue that many people have said about how I can I will be suspended for suggesting, something should happen to another individual, or very, like, I won't use that as an example, but I can be suspended for speaking on what actually happened. However, it breaks no community guidelines of Instagram, of Facebook, of TikTok, of anywhere to show a black body being murdered. Um, like, unblurred, on no trigger warning, no nothing. Like, the fact that you can still watch us being murdered repeatedly doesn't hit their community guidelines remains an issue for me.
All right, so I actually looked up the New York Times Twitter suspension. So, just for clarity, according to this article, it said, and I'll put it in the chat. It says a Twitter suspension of New York Times account was human error. The account was locked for 1 day over the weekend. Twitter was fumbled yet again. Over the weekend, the platform temporarily locked a New York Times account for violating its rule against hateful conduct. But the tweet in question, a report on Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's apology over the treatment of Native people in Newfoundland and Labrador, was rather unoffending, further muddying what will and won't get you suspended by the platform. The account was fully restored about a day later, and Twitter has said that this suspension was the fault of human error. So, on this platform, family, it's all about transparency and validation.
So all a big mistake, but that was about Justin Trudeau. Is there anything in there about Hunter Biden's laptop story? Because that's the one I'm referring to. That's the one that's trending on Twitter right now.
Well, I don't know what's trending on Twitter. That's the one that I'm reading from the article.
Okay.
So, I mean, yeah, if you have that information, we definitely like to hear more about that. But from this article, actually, this is a really old article, 2017. So, yeah, maybe there's an updated
Let me see.
one.
We can go move on while I'm looking.
Yeah.
See what I see.
All right, so let's see here. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so media, we have film, music, print. I know there's more.
What commercials?
Like, are you talking about like TV commercials? Like, oh, those would be ad agencies, right?
There we go.
I see you. See, I was trying to. I was like, I know there's something in there. Yeah, you got the ad agencies for sure. Because the thing about it is, like, these ad agencies get these contracts, right, from these corporations. So I'd want to see actually how many of those contracts are actually going to black owned, firms, which is probably very few, if any, actually go to ad agencies. Or I should clarify and say black owned agencies. Let's see what else is in the chat. Disparity, subpoena, how many black teachers? The state. Okay, so somebody mentioned teachers out of the education department. Did we already mention that or no?
I don't think so.
I know we mentioned schools, but maybe we get a little bit more specific and say teachers unions, maybe.
What is that? Not for profit, or are they for profit?
I don't know. And then if we go back in underneath the film, Specifically in film, they actually do have, because we actually did. Everyone hasn't had a chance to see the presentation / documentary on our channel. It's called Blacklisted. Go check it out. But we did briefly mention about the unions. So they do have the unions. You know, and those unions can span from, you know, production, you know, below the line to, you know, above the line, you know, directors, writers, etc. SAG. Who else is in there? AFTRA.
After that's the one I was trying to think of. SAG, IATSE,
Yeah.
after
The Screenwriters Guild, WGA. The Directors Guild. I'm trying to remember
what is the Producers Guild?
I think it's PGA. I could be wrong.
PGA?
PGA. I think it is, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I think it's producers or PAG or PGA, something like that. And then they have the Directors Guild.
Is that just DG?
Yeah, I think so. It might be DGA. So yeah, so there's also I think they actually fall under the IATSE one, the IATSA, which is the one that do like the makeup and set design. I think that and I think they have their own name underneath that. So yeah, definitely the did you SWG? What is that one? Is that the Screenwriters Guild? Oh, it's actually WGA, the Writers Guild. Or yeah, that's fine. Yeah, the Writers Guild. All right, so we have film, music, print, digital, ad. And I know we probably have a lot more that we can probably get into right now. But I think this is actually a good start. Because at this point, I'm not too sure who else, because we've covered, you know.
And you put the teachers union down. We have a comment in the chat saying the teachers, looking at how many teachers.
Yeah, so we covered, let's see. Yeah, I think this is actually a good start here.
Okay.
At this point, I can't think of really anything else. I mean, because even if you're talking about land theft, I mean, that kind of falls underneath eminent domain. And I know Jonathan Burgess and his family, we actually went up to Coloma, and they gave us a tour of Coloma and a brief history on what happened to their family there. So I don't know if that could fall under eminent domain or if that falls underneath something else. And I don't know which department would actually oversee that process. So yeah, so all right, so do you mind just scrolling up just one more time? And then if I guess that's pretty much it, we can wrap it up. So once again, we have the banking institutions, gave some of those examples, hospitals, real estate, agriculture, private prisons, utility companies, media companies, tech. Actually, underneath tech, I think let's get a little specific. You want to mention like Google, because they're huge. Netflix.
And the social media platforms. And actually, okay, so I found this story, and it looks like during the 2020 presidential election, the New York Post, not the New York Times, but the New York Post first reported on the laptop and its contents. We're talking about Hunter Biden as one of the oldest newspapers in the country. The New York Post was banned from Twitter for weeks after being accused of spreading misinformation. But now it turns out that the story was true, but they were trying to say that the New York Post was spreading misinformation, influenced by Russian bots and all this other stuff. But so my point again is that these platforms just take down information at their own discretion. So we don't know what the truth is.
Yeah, a lot of AI, I think, sometimes is involved with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've been banned on TikTok just for writing techniques.
Seriously?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, that was interesting. It's like, okay, whatever. These AIs are I mean, because just as a human, that's a lot of data and information, right, to cover. So, they might have people scrubbing the accounts, but I don't see how like any human being can actually do that, because you have to literally watch every post that comes up, and who has time to do all that, right? Okay, so we have media companies, tech, Google, Netflix, social media platforms. All right. Let's put Apple in there too, for sure. And Microsoft. I think it's Microsoft. Oh, we almost forgot. Oh man, you can't forget about the automobile industry.
So who oversees that industry?
That's a great question. I don't know. I know they have like I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know if we should put DMV. Like, I don't know if they had discriminatory practices as well, since we're talking about
Probably.
bills. So, which is obviously a state, ran entity.
Yeah, well, that one needs further exploration.
Indeed.
All right, so we have automobiles. So I don't know. See, under the government, do you mind putting DMV? All right, I think we have a caller.
How
So
do we?
yeah, we have a caller. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can get this person on the line.
All right.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you. What is your name and where you calling from?
My name is Amia, but I'm also known as Reps on YouTube,
Hey,
and
what's
I'm
up,
calling from.
Reps?
Hey, welcome, welcome.
Hey, Reps.
Thanks for calling
I just
in.
no problem. Thank you so much for having me. I just want to say before y'all end, thank you very much for always broadcasting the Reparations Task Force live. Thank you so much to Amanda Mass, and thank you Kim, and thank you Theo, and thank you. And how do you pronounce your name?
Oh, it's
Umalei?
pronounced Umoya.
And thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Moya. Thank you guys very much. I just want to pop in and say thank you, and I'll drop that down in the comment section.
No, we appreciate
Well,
you.
thank you for your support, Reps. Now, can I ask where you're located? I don't believe you're in California, if I'm correct.
No, I'm not. Right. No, I'm not. I'm in South Carolina. Just this past Wednesday, I went down to Columbia, South Carolina for Marcel. He actually finalized his paperwork and became a candidate, like legitimate candidate down there in District 6. But yeah, I'm in South Carolina.
All right, we're rooting for you guys out there. Yeah, what Marcel is doing is very exciting. We're following that very closely.
Yeah, we're gonna. I
Yeah.
think hopefully we can actually get him on our platform. I know Chris mentioned that he was gonna reach out to the brothers, see if we can get him on here. But yeah, we definitely want to support, y'all
Cool.
out there
That'd
in
be
South
awesome.
Carolina.
All right. All right. Well, I know you said that y'all were wrapping up, but that's all. I just wanted to say thank you very much again, and I'm gonna be watching and just praying and hoping that it is passed, and that they actually vote for eligibility the end of the month. But yes, thank you guys, and y'all take care.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Enjoy your
Thank you.
Sunday.
You too. Enjoy your Sunday Funday. Bye.
All right, bye.
Bye. So there you go.
Shout out to Reps.
Yes.
Repping it. All right, family. So we're going to wrap it up here. Hopefully you enjoyed this program, this think tank. If you have any other suggestions that you would like to see the California Task Force subpoena, go ahead, drop us an email at etnmediagroup@gmail.com. That's I think I put it somewhere in the chat. That's etnmediagroup@gmail.com. I don't know. Do y'all have anything else to talk about or say or anything like that? Or are we ready to enjoy the rest of our weekend?
Well, like Rep said, we are eagerly awaiting the eligibility outcome of the vote coming up at the next California Reparations Task Force meeting, which will be March 29th and March 30th. So we encourage the family to call in for that, to testify for eligibility, for a yes on the eligibility vote. And also swing by CJEC Twitter page. There are lots of calls to action, to call some of our lawmakers and call our task force members and let them know that, we're all pushing for eligibility-based reparations here in California.
Yep. Took the words right out of my mouth.
There
In
you
the
go.
interim, feel free to hop on social media and encourage folks, the folks who are currently on the task force, to vote. Let your voice be heard now, but also call in on the day.
All right. Look forward to hearing from you, fam. And peace, love, and reparations as always.
The 8th California Reparations Task Force meeting is scheduled for March 29th and March 30th.
All California Reparations Task Force meetings are open to the public and welcome public comment. Emend the Mass Media Group provides coverage of all California Reparations Task Force meetings. Tune in, tap in, and testify. Reparations Now, fam.